Richard Gonzalez is present and Oscar Lopez is present. And with us at the moment is Ms. Eva Orona. Next item on the agenda is a moment of silence. This time I'd like to ask you to remember my daughter's best friend that passed away last Monday. She was our senior class president when my daughter graduated, Myra. So remember her in your prayers. And remember your loved ones and the ones that have gone before you. Amen. We go to item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas Fletcher.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We go to item number 4, public participation, sir. Policy BAG local.
Any questions? No questions.
This time I should go to item 5, information item. A, sir. Where is the Education Foundation report?
Trustees, our first item on the information is a report for the Roughstown ISD Education Foundation report by Dr. Juarez. Dr. Juarez?
Good evening, Dr. Juarez, good board members. Thank you for placing the agenda. It is a report that we have committed ourselves as a foundation to give the world. Are you coming through okay?
Just a little bit light. As far as volume?
That's 1, 2, 3, how are we doing? Are you okay there?
Yeah, we're going to adjust our side.
I think it's probably at your range. Testing 1, 2, 3, are we okay now?
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Juarez.
Test. Okay.
Okay.
All right, test 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
It sounds like it's on this side. Yes, it's on.
You okay?
Yes. Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Are you okay now? Okay. Let me start. Okay, first of all, once again, thank you for having me on. This is a commitment on behalf of our foundation board to give a report to the trustees on what we have been up to and where we're leading up to. So my report basically consists of 2 sections. The first one is just to provide you with the foundation's activities that we have been involved with in the past year, and then at least a glimpse of where we're headed in the coming year. To start with our accomplishments, as all of you are aware, the 2020 April 15th annual luncheon was canceled. We postponed it a couple of times, and we finally decided that it was just not going to fly, so we canceled it. But an interesting thing happened is that by the time we canceled it, we had 14 sponsors that had already submitted their sponsorship forms along with the monies for a total of $11,600. So what the board decided to do was to contact these 14 sponsors and give them 3 options. One was if they wanted a refund. The second one, if they would want to, for us to just hold their donation. for the coming year. And the third option was to just go ahead and use the money now for grant for teachers. Of the 14 sponsors that submitted their forms and their money, only one of them requested a refund. And it was understandable. It was a company that goes on their annual budgets year to year, and I'm sure they will be coming back the following year to support it. So we're not disappointed. So again, all total, we still have, received about $10,000 from these sponsors that we're going to be able to use for grants and scholarships for our teachers for this year. Our current budget total is $69,908. Now, all of our funds that we have awarded are awards or teacher grants and scholarships. So let me give you a breakdown of the grants. We received 18 grant applications from teachers, and 15 of these were approved. And we were awarded a total of $29,285. All 6 campuses received grants. 3 campuses received 3 grants, and 3 received 2 grants. I'll give you a breakdown in just a moment. The largest grant that was awarded was for $3,500. This grant was to the high school for the Health Sciences Learning Program. The smallest grant was for $541 for a STEM's BIM, a project at the Robert Driscoll Elementary School. Now, Driscoll campus received 3 grants. Lots Beach received 2 grants. The high school received 2. San Pedro received 3. Steele Junior High received 2. And Ortiz Elementary received 3. Now, regarding the scholarships, we were able to award 3 scholarships of $1,000 each for teachers that are pursuing an advanced degree. These teachers, for Rosanna Ibarra from Robert Driscoll Elementary, Priscilla Benavides from Robert Driscoll also, and Erica Garcia from Lots Beach Elementary. Now, normally we have set as our objective of awarding 2 scholarships to teachers and 1 scholarship to a teacher's aide that is pursuing a teaching certificate or teaching degree. However, this year we did not receive an application from a teacher's aide. So the board decided to award the $1,000 to another teacher. That's why this year we awarded 3 scholarships of $1,000 each to teachers only. Hopefully this next year we will get some applications from teachers that might be interested in pursuing a career in teaching. Now, last year we awarded 12 $100 first year new teacher stipends. This year we're once again considering awarding to the 14 new teachers stipends, but the board has not given final approval yet. The reading I get so far from some of the polling I've been doing is that they're very much in favor of moving forward and awarding their $100 stipend to the new teachers again. So that brings the whole total awards for this past school year from the foundation to $33,485. That's $33,485. We're very, very proud of this amount enabled that we were able to award these grants. On the not so good side of our successes was the great loss of one of our board members, Mrs. Adela Enriquez. Mrs. Enriquez was a very active board member and certainly always available on short notice to help in any way that she could. She will be greatly missed. For this upcoming year, we have 2 new board members, Dr. Julio Rangel, who some of you may know, and Mr. Victor Davila, who is a doctoral candidate at A&M Kingsville and currently a program officer at Del Mar College. Both of these new members have excellent background that I feel are going to be great assets to the foundation board. I want to especially recognize our three school board trustees on the foundation board, Eva Rano, Berta Rodan, and Valde Torres III. These board members have dedicated a lot of their time to the foundation, and they're always available if we need it. No matter the hour that I call them, I always get to respond with them immediately. The successes of our foundation are a tribute really to all of our dedicated, committed, and hard-working board members. Now for the next part is what's ahead. Well, due to our curtailed fundraising events this past year, our resources for awards in the coming year will probably be less than last year's. This year we have allocated a budget of $20,000 for awards. Miracles do happen, and we're always optimistic that our fundraising efforts prior to the award of this year's grants will be so successful that we can fund a greater amount than the $20,000 allocated for this year. Coming up very, very shortly here, in about 7 weeks, is a repeat of our Red and White Day of Giving on November the 6th, 2020. Trustees, we will need all of your support behind this event. We don't know how successful we're going to be in the annual luncheon that's coming this year. So we really are going to work really hard to raise as much money as we can in order to fulfill our mission. So again, keep that date in mind. The Red and White Day of Giving on November the 6th of this year. We'll be starting the marketing efforts on that one pretty soon, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more signage and activity pertaining to that upcoming event. The annual luncheon is scheduled for April 14th of 2021, this coming year. We're being optimistic that the conditions will be such that we will be able to hold the luncheon. Needless to say, it is our largest fundraising event, so we're hoping that we will be able to pull it off. We have updated our Vision 2023, of our strategic plan. So every year we drop a year and we add the new year. So our new plan is for the 2020-2023. And a number of details that I won't bore you with, but the highlight of the strategic plan that we're aiming for this time is to focus on hiring a half-time foundation executive director. Toward that objective, an ad hoc executive director search committee has been appointed, and our objective is to advertise for this position in January of 2021. Depending on the success of our foundation in the coming years, our ultimate objective is to hire a full-time director, and we are really going to try to make that happen in the long run. Now, the 2020-2021, in other words, this coming year's future grant request for proposals will be announced on October the 1st. We already have our schedule for the year. And the due date of their proposals will be November the 13th, that's of this year. Okay? The maximum amount we're still striving for these proposals is still $3,500. An announcement of grant recipients is scheduled for January 13th, 14th of 2021. In other words, those in the early part of January.
Richard, it all went on? just text Dr. Weiss.
They'll be able to know, right, Dr. Juarez? Because they'll get a signal or something.
Yeah, it shuts down.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Drizzle. I parked over here and I said, oh my God, they probably have us going in through this side. Because it was unlocked. It was locked. Then it's unlocked for me. Thank God. Tell him we didn't give him a time limit. He was doing good. Because he's doing a whole year's report, like he's giving an update. So much. I have heard that he's still talking.
Rewind.
Oh, yes, perfect.
We let him have a breather. Will you announce that I came in, please? Because I don't know if they get to.
I know something now.
Okay, sir.
I thought I put all of you to sleep.
Ready when you are.
Well, I was just asking if there were any questions on regarding the report.
No, Dr. Juarez, just that, like you said, we're gonna advertise for the Red and White Day of Giving, because that's the nearest event that we have planned. So we'll be advertising pretty quickly.
Right, we'll look forward to it, and as I said, we're going to, a lot of support from the school district, the administrators, to have another successful day of giving. So these days of giving don't happen without the support of everybody, and we received it last year, and we're looking forward to receiving it again this year. So thank you.
I want to thank you again for your leadership with the foundation, all the foundation members. Again, I know that from just the past 2 years, we've had a lot more interest from our teachers in applying for the grant, so that's very exciting to see. So thank you, Dr. Juarez, for your report.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I hope you all have a good productive meeting now, and take care, and you know where our office is. Don't hesitate to drop by and say hello. The door is kind of hidden right now behind the banner, but just move it aside. I'm in there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
All right, trustees, the next item on the agenda is TASA TASB. Just a reminder, TASA TASB Convention, September 30th, 2020 through October 2nd. And again, it is virtual, and the deadline is September 29th to sign up. Just please let Irma know, she'll help you out with that process. The next item, trustees, I'd like to talk to you about or share with you is on the 2020-2021 Board Superintendent Goals. If all of you can look on page 6 of our board packet. Now, these are goals that in a future meeting that we'll want to review to see some, obviously we've already met and continue moving forward, and that would be a board workshop that we'd look at as far as establishing our goals. But I'd like to tie two in particular to this particular meeting today, and I provided you all this document here that has a brown trim on it. So on this document, what you'll notice is, again, is facilities projects, and it ties into the next page. There's two goals that ties into based on our board and superintendent goals. Number one is goal number 3, which is target number 3, the superintendent will develop a 5-year financial plan, which we did last year, and then as it ties into future projects and expenditures. Again, so this is what we're doing, is picking up on that, because I know last year we got it definitely in the spring, our whole focus shifted because of COVID. But again, as we continue moving forward, and we're still working through COVID, obviously, but that is one that would tie into this as a continuation. And then you look at goal number 4, also ties in with a target number 2. The superintendent will develop a strategic plan of action towards a 10-year facilities study. We already have a contract available that we're going to be working with TASB. They'll work with us the next 3 years conducting a long-range facilities plan where they'll look at every single building from top to bottom, walls, everything across, and be able to set up, I don't know if you recall that one from last year, but it's an electronic scoreboard, basically, a dashboard, excuse me, where all that information will be input and it helps us to prioritize all of the priorities in the school district, and it's something we'll be able to look at. What I really liked about this particular plan, because I've gone through one of these before, is that you don't just get a big thick notebook. It's actually, it's electronic platform. It's awesome. I mean, so it'll give you your red, yellow, green as far as priorities. Anytime you want to pull a report, we'll be able to do that. And the other beauty of it is they come the first year and they gather all their data and they put the plan together. They revisit it again the second year to fine tune if they need to, and then the third year they do it again. So you always have a live set of data that we use to make decisions as we move forward.
Is that something you'll be using, like if in the future you need to add more classrooms to any of the facilities? And
all that, because it takes it to the square footage of every single building. So it really leads into what would be considered a long-range facilities plan when we get into a 10-year. But this is a facilities assessment. And again, I'll tell you right now, from what I saw from that presentation compared to getting a notebook, it's night and day. I mean, it really is. And to have that updated for 3 years straight is a good model for us to have, and as a first step, and then as we continue progressing forward.
When does it begin, Dr. Miller?
It's a facilities assessment.
But when does it begin?
We're right now, we'd be in line, my understanding would be in January to February when they would start going through that process for us.
Okay.
On the next page, I wanted to bring to light, again, some of the projects that you as a board have approved and again have really helped facilitate our school district in trying to make improvements across. Last year, and lots happened since last year, but I don't know if you remember, last year you approved the implementation of our instrumentation lab. That's when we had the grant and a whole lab just like it is at Del Mar set up at the Roxanne Early College High School. We have that. That was, I'll put a check on that as far as that. That was definitely implemented and was active and continues to be. The next part, in the CTE building as well, you approved for additional lighting because that's one of our older parts of our high school. So the lighting just made a huge difference in that hallway. And then of course the walls, what I mean by the walls there, not only were they painted, but there were a lot of old blue lockers in that particular wing. Those were all taken out, and then the sheetrock was put across, and now you see a wall like this. So again, it just gives it a whole different look. The next step that we'd like to look at for that particular wing is new tile. So we can get back to white like this, not a tannish color because of the age of it. And then of course just a painting. That alone made a big difference. The other thing that I know we'll be able to do internally that would give it just that extra spark that we need in there is painting all the doors so that they're all the same now. So that'll be something we can manage definitely this year, early on. The other big thing that you helped us out with last year is, I don't know if y'all remember, if you picture the Salazar building, the front parking lot of Salazar, that was all redone. We didn't do the second half where the buses are, but the whole front part there was done because it was pretty bad shape, and that's where we had a lot of our parents walking and the little ones too. So that was done last year. Two major repairs or actually replacements were occurred last year. You helped us replace a East chiller, which is a big item, and then Seal also had a big chiller that needed to be replaced. And those are two big ticket items that again were able to get accomplished. The Ag Barn, again last year our kids actually had an opportunity to be inside the ag barn, and of course we got new fans, the new pins, just other, just some electrical needs that needed to happen in there, cleanup of the restrooms, all those areas to make it a usable tool for our students. And now this year, as an added, I'll call it a pipeline, an ability to build a pipeline for us. That means that all of the pins are available now on the outside. So at this point, we've partnered with our 4-H, one of the local 4-H. Right now, it's down to one 4-H organization. And so we're allowing for the outside 4-H, for the younger students, to be able to start to keep some animals there. And of course, what does that mean? In the long run, that's a pipeline for us as they enter high school as an for FFA. So, because we have about, I think it's about 22 stalls outside, 22 to 24. And the only thing that I asked is that, again, that's something they'll be responsible for. They have to clean up, but the other thing is uniformity. They committed to that as far as tarps or anything like that. That way they get some uniformity and make sure that it's also being utilized for our students here at Robstown.
Did you say it got fixed? You remodeled it?
No, ma'am. No, the outside they'll be cleaning up. They'll do whatever it needs. The uniformity, like the tarps and things like that.
Oh.
That's one thing that we asked of them. And actually, they had a team cleanup this past weekend, and they got in there together and started cleaning up the pins so they could utilize them.
And what age group was this?
4-H is, it could be the elementary all the way to the middle school. We would hope that by the following school year that we'll be able to start making more of that connection from the high school to the middle school as well. Our numbers just quite didn't make it this year to require a second teacher, but once we get to that point, we'll be able to facilitate both for the high school and the middle school at the same time. And then this is another one. Again, it's some of these things that you approved to get done, and it's not something you just see and notice, but right off the bat. But again, roofs, Martin was repaired, Ortiz was repaired, Seal was repaired, and the Robstown College High School sections that were not part of the new were also repaired, as well as some of the part of the new part that needed to be repaired again. But that was taken care of as well.
And that was due to the hurricane?
Well, some of this is just because of the age, but some of it we were able to utilize because of the.
And we did get a refund on that, right?
Yes.
Reimbursement?
Also for future, well, let me say actually something on that too. Last year, and again, we have so many meetings, trustees, but if you recall, you basically, in a certain way, we fronted about $500,000 towards the repairs of the buildings. And what we said, TEA at that time hadn't finalized their approval yet, but basically we were hoping that what happened is that once it got approved through them, then we'd be able to use that money again. So that actually worked out for us this year. And that's part of what went into fund balance this past year. So we're at 8.6. If that money wouldn't have been there, we'd be at about 8.1 as far as our fund balance. So again, that was a big plus for us as a school district, because that's part of our funding at this point.
That was a FEMA refund?
The part of what we applied for is a grant with FEMA, through FEMA through TEA.
That was what, 500,000?
Yes, ma'am. And that puts us at, again, what we adopted this past year as far as our budget was 8.6 million. Again, give or take, it's about 8.6 million. Taking that part of it out is at 8.1. And then the next page, just things that we talked about last year, and some are active and some are again up for discussion as we continue moving forward. As they tie those particular goals, is one big piece that we had on our summer projects leading into looking at budgeting and moving forward was the demolition of, at this point, the community center, the old M&O building, as well as the old Salazar wings. And when I say that, it's not, obviously the Salazar building has a lot of good structure still. It's the older wings that Rogelio actually will be presenting on today. That, I say it's moving forward and active. If you'll notice the dates, the community center, I know that they went out there today. I don't think they started the demolition just yet, but they started already to take the initial steps that they needed. They've already taken out the asbestos of all three facilities now, but that's gonna be the first project all the way through November 23rd. Now, I know it sounds like a long time, but that's because they're gonna be in one, as they bring the equipment, they may demolish and then they're gonna jump to the next building. They'll demolish and they do what they need to do, but it'll be completely completed, done within that time scope, that time frame for each of those projects.
Dr. Moreno, let me ask you, we already budgeted for this project, right?
Yes, ma'am. So
200,000,
these,
right?
we put roughly about 200,000 aside for that. And if you recall, this particular project was about 159,000. Again, I say roughly because I know I'll be off a few numbers on that, but that was in that range that we looked at. So that's already taken care of there. The goal also, which we had quite a bit of discussion last year, which Rogelio will be here to present again, because we'll need to make a decision, because once everything's demolished, we'll be able to move pretty quickly because we also have that funding set aside already. Well, remember, the funding that we had on the 500,000 is now going to help us out to be able to take care of this next project, which is our a new bus barn or mechanic shop, as well as being able to help us with the parking lot, for a brand new parking lot for the buses and all the white fleet within that. So it would be in good shape for these two projects. Demolition, because we already had the money set, and then that 500 was set for construction needs, and that would be able to take care of most of that as well. Another big topic that was discussed last year was turf for football, softball, and baseball fields. And you notice that is on an item on our agenda packet. And then also, one other item that was set there was parking lots in general. Parking lots, like our biggest, I think, priority would have to be looking at Ortiz, because that one, again, was resurfaced a few years back and patched up mainly. And that one, as much as we patch up, again, with the rains, it starts to open up again. It just needs some major work. I'm gonna give you an estimate, trustees, and please don't hold me to this particular one, but just based on previous work, that parking lot would probably run us around $90,000. Okay, but that's a very, very rough estimate.
Dr.
Just
Moreno, on that parking lot, Ortiz, they had an issue with
the elevation.
the road being too high
Yeah.
and the elevation, and it's not setting right, and that's why we have.
That's part of the reason, because the road is higher in that, from that juncture, and then it picks up, so it always creates a valley there. And well, that valley creates that puddle of water. And so unless there's some type of drainage, because I can't imagine that we'd be able to set it up that much higher. That'll continue to be a problem there.
Is that something engineering or anybody could look at, like even with the city?
I think, and again, in my opinion, it would have to start with the city as far as that road grade at that point. Because again, the only way that we'd be able to look at it is if we ended up doing this angle. You know, again, higher than the road to have it flow.
Are we gonna be in the same situation, even were to fix it, because the elevation's on level, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be an ongoing unless that part is addressed or fixed with drainage of some sort.
So,
Yeah, I think we need to look at that, Dr. Moreno, because if the cost is gonna be more, then obviously you have to look at that, because if you're looking at 90,000 just to repair, but not even thinking to fix a drain problem, it just doesn't make sense to leave it not corrected.
Right. And I say that's a rough estimate because I'm going based on the previous parking lot that we have over here. You're looking at the square footage. Also, because at one point I think we had an estimate for about 35,000 just to resurface again and try to, and that'll last you a few years, but it's a Band-Aid. It's never gonna get it done right.
So it won't be resurfaced, you're saying like they're gonna.
To do it the right way,
You gotta
break it up.
break it down, yeah.
And start it over, because again, that's gonna be an ongoing base. It's been going on for a while. Like last year, we repainted all the stripes, cleaned it up, everything else, but again, I mean, if you drive right now, it's gonna be the same just because of all the rain and the wear and tear as we go through.
Dr. Moreno, what about the stadium? The stadium's really bad.
That would be a major,
Really?
yeah, I mean, if you can only imagine that being roughly, let's just round it up to 100,000. Imagine what the stadium would end up being to be able to take care of that hole.
Well, couldn't we just kind of resurface it and patch up to correct the way it looks
For
right
the
now?
first
Yeah.
few years at least. How long did Ortiz last?
I wanna say it was done
2
right
years?
before I
About 2
started.
years?
Mhm.
Yeah, but we have a different issue there versus the stadium. Stadium's
The
less.
stadium just needs
Yeah, it
a
just
lot
needs
of
attention.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it needs attention,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it costs us more than 90,000,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
really? Okay, well,
Yeah, just because of the surface, I mean, because even the drives in, that in itself is a
With the
big
buses
piece.
and all that, yeah.
could we add that to the list, the stadium?
Is that due to the elevation, sir?
That one, I think, sir, is more wear and tear than anything, but also,
The weight that goes in there?
The-
Yes, sir.
The buses,
Mhm.
huh?
yeah. Because again, I don't think it's ever gone through like concrete in certain areas that you need to.
If the
Concrete.
buses come the other direction, there's another opening at the other side.
And the other side's pretty.
It's worse, or-
It is worse. It's just, it really hasn't been given me attention for a
For
long,
years.
long time.
That one's been ignored. I just think, last time I went in it was a couple of Fridays ago, and
Yeah.
it's,
What we can do there, just because I don't even have that ballpark figure, is we'll get what it would run and the
Yeah.
options and go from there.
Yeah.
At least that goes into future planning as we start the budget year to year.
it's just better to put it on the list.
What about the gym concession stand? I don't know whatever happened to that.
Okay. And the gym concession stand, ma'am, is to make it bigger or?
Bigger, and the breakers are always tripping when they're heating stuff up.
Electrical
It's just bad.
There needs to be just,
overloading, I think that's what it is.
Well, when Dr. Vidal was here, I remember she was gonna get estimates to see what it would do, how much it would cost to make it bigger.
Mhm.
You know where there's wood next to the
Yes.
concession stand to open all that up? I don't know whatever happened with that.
Okay, we can look at that. We'll get an estimate for it.
to update it, make it look,
Fresh.
Yeah, and it's dated, very dated.
Because we have an older gym, but it's a beautiful gym. I mean,
yeah.
it really is. It pops, the color pops when you walk in. If we had a facelift in that whole foyer area, I mean, it would really bring it back.
We did a semi, because we did the floor, I think, and the restrooms.
And the restroom.
We didn't do the
Isn't it a bit,
concession
is it a
stand.
bit dark when you guys go in there? When you go in and.
It's dark,
Foyer's dark.
it would be nice to look, make the
Because-
whole entrance and the concession look really nice.
Not this type of lighting, but like get the LED lighting like we did at the CTE building at the high school. It just brightens
Lights
it
up.
up. I mean, something like that, just some redoing right through the concession stand. And that would be something manageable too. It's not something that would be completely outrageous, I think. So we'll definitely get some prices
Less
on
than
that.
50,000, right?
Could be. If I were to give an estimate on something like that for that size, I would say about 50,000-60,000.
Okay.
But that's me saying.
What about a scoreboard, sir?
That I have no idea as far as the cost, but that would be something we have to look at.
Scoreboard for where?
For the basketball gym, for the gym?
Well, because the big scoreboard in the gym, that one works. So my understanding on the back one, that one, depending on if there's lighting or something, that one always seems to trip.
Well, I know that I've
The
gone
other one
there.
doesn't always work.
The back one, the smaller
big-
one.
No, the big one.
The big one too?
If you've noticed, I don't know if y'all have noticed,
Okay,
on the
I've
bottom of
noticed,
games,
but-
they start doing it manually on the scoring, because they'll stop
I
working.
didn't see that.
It was functioning when we
Yeah,
were gone,
it was.
but it could be a problem that comes up and down.
And then another item that was mentioned also was a electronic marquee. Again, if you've noticed the one just recently at Driscoll, it's an old marquee. Just about a week or two ago, we were able to get a new motherboard for it, and now what you're gonna notice is there's some lettering that's missing. Richard is already on that. They're LED bulbs, so they're gonna change out that so we can have at least that functional marquee over here in the corner. But the motherboard already came in. We already ordered the motherboard for the high school one, because that one, you'll see it come on, but they can't update it. So that one's already been ordered, now it's a matter of them coming out to fix that one as well. And we'll at least have that functioning in that area. But this particular one is one that Ms. Orona brought up. I don't have any pictures or anything else on this particular one, but one of them ran about 58,000 and the other one ran about 68,000, but you're talking about a big one that you could, I know at some point we've been talking about possibly advertising of some sort.
What is that, Bertha?
It's
A
an
marquee?
electronic marquee, it's kind of like an advertising marquee. You'll see them at school districts. I had brought it up to Dr. Moreno over a year ago, but it was like last April 2019. They have one at Kerrville ISD and it really stands out. I mean, they're right off their main road. Their high school's right off their main road, just like Robson ISD, right there where the highway is. They have a real nice setup for it. It's a big monitor. And when I reached out to them, because when I saw it, we're like, Robstown can have that. It would really look really, really well in the area that we wanted. But the only thing is that, one of the things that they told me was that it'll pay for itself because they use advertising. So you buy it and within months, it's already paid for. It's just how you maintain your marketing on it. And it's very positive because they put a lot of like success stories up there on the screen, so the community can see it. Anything going on with the school, any achievements that the students are being recognized for, it's all up there. We have advertising for businesses as well that want to support the school district. It kind of starts building a relationship within the community and the schools. That's something we kind of like, I think we need that in Robstown. Connect, that bridge between the community and the school district to be stronger. That marquee just kind of puts it out there for us.
Yeah, something on the main road like that would be, would be great.
Plus, the other thing they had that I had asked Dr. Moreno to look into, and it's really awesome, if y'all go to Kerrville ISD's website, they have a really amazing screen, like it's like a logo of their team, and it's on the bleachers. It's a bleacher screen, and it covers up the back part, like how our baseball bleacher faces a highway. They would have all that covered with the really beautiful logo of your school, and it covers the back, and it stands out right there where everybody's passing by every
Like a
day.
wind guard or something?
It's
kind of like that.
It's
And
like a mesh.
We got an estimate last year on that. Again, it's so when you're facing the road, all you see is the back of the bleachers. It just basically covers it, and
Yeah.
then you can put our
Your
logo,
logo.
whatever we want to on there. But that's only it's less than $5,000. So we
I
just
know.
that's something we'll be able to manage here internally, and it'll give it a fresher look.
We probably get
Yeah,
sponsored.
we're ready. They followed up with them already again. It's the same company that did the windows. I don't know if everyone's already seen the gem window. Yeah, I mean, that type is that same company. I mean, they're very, very professional.
When I got all this information, I just want to make it known to everybody that I provided you that information back then, so it could be looked into. But it's been a while, a lot of things going on, especially for this year. It's just something I wanted to bring back because we had not touched on that, for a while, so.
So these were projects, and then at this point, let me see. I'd like to bring in, if I go to the next one, RISD current and future construction updates. With your permission, I'd like to bring Rogelio, and he's going to give us, again, refresh all of our memories on where we were last year, what he presented. Also, he made a couple updates because we have to make a decision sooner than later. So as we get the demolition, we can already be in the process of going out for bids on all of the parking lot as well as the mechanic shop or the bus barn. I'm just going to refer to it as the bus barn.
Do we have a
Is
handout?
this-
Where's the
Yeah,
handout?
and he's
Oh,
going
he
to come
has
in.
it, okay.
He already passed them out.
This one might be a little bit more updated than the one I
No,
touched
this
on
is
earlier.
bus barn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But that was more updated?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I just handed it out.
It has a date of 0014.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a typo, I just realized when I was sitting out there.
The one that
Sorry about
says on White Fleet
that.
Parking?
It's supposed to be
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
zero.
white fleet.
Okay, then I have the other one.
Okay. Good evening. Okay, so
Hold
the,
on. Did you get this one, sis?
Yeah, I have two, that's why I'm like.
it says white feet on.
So the demolition is.
Yeah, the last one, is basically the same thing, it's just that I took out some slides, because these were the demolition slides, and we're not really talking about that anymore.
Okay.
So if you go to the second page, on that one, you can see the current facilities use, and we're talking about the maintenance and operations area of Salazar. So if you are, if you're looking at you see the technology, the kind of grayish color, that's a current technology use. And then that same building is being shared with M&O offices. And I'm sure you guys are aware of all this. And then the orange one is the DAEP. And that one, they're only using one classroom right across the exterior hallway there. And then you have the childcare 4 classrooms with the office.
Okay, can you just hold, Mr. Gonzalez, Richard Gonzalez, we're gonna send you in pics, so you can see the presentation on your phone.
It's the same slides from the other presentation. So if he wants to just kind of find it, it's the one that says at current facilities.
Right, but he didn't have this.
Okay.
I passed mine.
Okay, so the last time that I was here, we discussed several options as to where to put the new bus barn in the parking lot. I did go through some exercises as far as putting it in the existing location where the old M&O building is, that is being demolished. The only thing that it will create a lot more cost is that we wouldn't have have any of the offices that are currently being used at the existing Salazar. So in other words, we would have to build the bus barn, the mechanical barn, the parking, and then we would also have to build a bunch of offices that M&O needs. And I'll get to the numbers in a little bit. But so that's one of the reasons why we decided, well, at that point, that it was probably not a good idea to put it in that location. And then I was also given 2 other locations of 2 other properties that the school district owns, and it will be the same thing. So even though logistically it works really well, it's it will cost a lot more money.
And what are we looking at when you're saying other offices?
So the if you go to the second to last slide, you look at all everything that is in the first 3 boxes in white. Those are all the programmatic needs of the M&O building. So they will need a workroom, which is this is what they're using right now, by the way. And the area and square footage that's on there is what it needs to be. Right now, there's an office and one guy is using like a whole classroom, and that's like way more than what he needs. So these are based on what the actual numbers would be if we were to build a new one. So it's a lot smaller than what they're using now, in other words. So it's a workroom, director's office, and you can go down the list, and those are all the offices that they're currently needing. And then you also need a reception, secretary for, and the second one is for technology, I'm sorry. But the first one, so it would be for the maintenance alone, would be 2,300 square feet. And if we were to also move the technology to the new M&O location, it would be about 1,000 square feet. So if you add all of those, it will be 3,300 square feet for net area plus circulation walls. And this is by no means an exact number, but it's pretty close to what being modest about the square footage. So we will need roughly 4,500 square feet. And then if we multiply that by a current cost that we're seeing everywhere of $150 a square foot, you're looking at an estimated construction cost of $683,000. Now you have some project costs on that, so you're looking at a savings if you were to leave it in the existing Salazar school of about $867,000.
How much?
$867,000. It's the last white box there.
That's the cost or the savings?
That would be, so if we were to build it somewhere else brand new, that's how much it would cost just to build all those offices.
867.
So if we were to keep it in the existing Salazar location, they already have all those offices there, so we would be saving all of that. So that's one of the reasons why we, at the last meeting that I was here, we decided that maybe it was the best idea to keep it at Salazar.
So what's the difference then? You're saying 867, and what are you looking at the cost for where it is now?
So where it is now, we wouldn't be using any of those costs for those offices because they're already there. But what we would be using is the yellow number there, which is $108,000, and that will be for the actual metal barn for the mechanical. And then we would also need either paving or concrete for the parking. So that would be the last. So basically, you would need the last 2 numbers, the yellow and one of the green or the blue. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if we go back to the previous to the third slide, there's one that says proposed facilities use. And I know this was a little controversial the last time that I was here because some of you didn't want the kids because I guess they have babies there and you didn't want them to be along with adults or maintenance people. So this was my solution would be to, and this is just a lot of moving around. This would work programmatically. It has enough space for everybody. It would just be a matter of moving them and obviously talking to that department for the babies to make sure that they get those spaces approved. So what my suggestion would be to move the babies from their current location, which is this 5 classrooms in the middle. If you look at the previous slide, the ones that were in green, and then we would move them to where the existing M&O is. So, and the only thing that we would have to do to this existing building is in the middle, there's a corridor that is currently being shared by M&O and technology. So we would have to create a small wall. It's like 8 feet. The corridor is 8 feet by 9 feet. And that's all we would have to do. And then we would separate that building into 2. One of them would be the DAEP, and the other one would be the childcare. They would both have their own entrances and their own emergency exits, and they would each have their access to the road and their drop-off area and their own parking. So that essentially will create two different campuses for those two departments.
So where would technology go?
So technology would actually be moved to these three classrooms right next to where that green is. There's a little arrow there.
Oh, I see.
And that has enough, that's the only one that's maybe a little short on storage. I wasn't really clear on how much space they need, because they're currently using a lot, and it seems that there's just like stuff everywhere, and I'm not really sure they need that much. And that's something that, you know, if you guys approve the kind of this direction today, I need to talk to Leroy and I need to talk to Richard as well, so that we can get down and know exactly how much it is that they need. I think I have maintenance pretty good figured out. The only thing is the parking. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But it would be basically, so technology would be right there in the middle. It would have they would have their own entrance through that little corridor on the side, and then after, so everything that's in that big blue box would basically be maintenance and technology, and then after that grayish color to that direction, it would all be maintenance and operations, including the new barn and the new parking. So in essence, every single department would have their own entrance and their own parking lot. I think this works pretty well, because we can just, like, if this becomes an issue, we can just put a fence, and then no maintenance people will ever be on this side. No kids will ever have to go over there. So there's logistically, we can work it out. So I think this works pretty good. Like I said, you know, it's not easy because we're gonna have to move everybody. Because right now, you know, maintenance and technology are sharing these two buildings. But there's a lot of space there. And if you look at the one that I was more concerned with is the orange one, which is the DAEP, the childcare, which is the green, to make sure that they have enough space. And it looks like, and I walked the building, so there are 4 classrooms there that each have their own restroom and their own storage and their own everything. So there shouldn't really be a need. It's basically an exact copy of the classrooms that they're using over here. So, you know, and they would have even more space for offices.
Each of those in green has its own restroom?
Yes, so if you look on the very bottom, it says childcare 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are like classrooms with their own storage and their own small.
They used to have, for, I don't know what age group was, kinder, I believe.
Maybe,
or, I think it was
that's
kinder.
uses that.
They used to have them, they used to all have their own bathrooms. So it kind of makes sense for the kids.
So that would work, you know, of course, granted, because I know that they had to spend some money and some resources on this existing, so it would just be a matter of having them walk it over and see if it works. I mean,
so where are they right now? They're right now where you have groundskeeping, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, carpenter?
Yes,
Carpenter.
on those 5, the first 5 classrooms. So, and I mean, I think this works pretty well, and then you have all these extra classrooms right here on the very bottom, and those can be for technology, or, you know, if they need more space, and they will, you know, I think that will work okay. Now, if you go to the parking lot, the last time that I spoke to Leroy, he told me that this might be a little too much for the 30 white fleet. He doesn't have that many cars. So the first time what I understood from him is that they needed to have, you know, the person that's gonna take a white truck needs to park their own car and then take the other one. But that seems that's an operational thing. So what we can do is just have him park on the side, take out the white truck, and then park in the same spot. And then that way we can minimize a lot of these parking spaces, potentially 15 parking spaces, which will put out of the cost from this area.
So that's where all the buses would go?
Yes, so
Is
the
it
buses will be
covered?
right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And also, that has 2 FFA trailers. And the buses, I think you do have 15 or close to 15 buses. What we would have to minimize is all the parking around the edge on the boundary, which is 30 spaces for the white fleet, because he doesn't need that many. He only needs about 15, I believe.
Okay, the one thing I was thinking about the other day is in that estimate a new fence set in there or not? Because that's something else we'd have to look at.
No, but the existing fence is not terribly bad. I mean, it was okay, and we did talk to the demolition contractor to be careful with it. If they need to remove part of it, they need to put it back the way it was, the way they found it, or better. That's what's in the specs. So yes, we're gonna have to do something, but not that extensive.
Is that can fences be like touched up again? Because like when they start to age, they can.
Yeah. Yeah, we do it all the time. You know, the main cost of the fence is the actual posts, and those are okay from what I saw. Okay, so that's basically the design that we have as of right now. And then if you go to the
One more question, Rogelio. On the fueling, So I know that one thing that was discussed is taking the fuel tanks and everything that we have from the previous one. Is that something that we know is gonna be in good condition to be able to bring it to this new facility?
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be in good, I mean, you know, there is always unforeseen conditions if they're rusting underneath or something, but they seem fine to me, so they should.
And they're usually
problem.
good.
Yeah,
These are on top fuels.
yeah, they're gonna be,
Above ground.
above ground.
Oh, they're above ground.
Yeah, I mean, underground is just more expensive and it just creates
Well, they
future
have to dig it
problems,
up if
leakage.
we relocate or something.
Yeah, so it's easier to do that. And of course, you know, there's some costs that I have on the very end. And these are costs based on the concrete costs as of that we're seeing right now. And I did talk to two contractors to get more of an idea of how much it will cost to do it here in Robstown. And mind you, these costs are not parking, existing parking to have new parking, and that would be less costly because it's already, you know, the foundation, if you want to call it that, it's already there. This is for basically from dirt, so they have to compact it, they have to bring in new dirt, and then they have to do the brand new parking. And the parking is not, this is heavy duty parking for buses.
Where do you have that?
So we have that, so you're looking at the green and the blue boxes. So the green is for concrete, this is a heavy duty concrete. And the cost that I'm getting from contractors right now is $9.50 per square foot. And this is a conservative number, you know, it's probably gonna be a little bit less because of the size. But it's pretty close, and I want it to be more conservative because I don't know what we need for the washing, for the, you know, the washing station and also the fueling station. And the other number, so it's either the blue or the green, the other number is for asphalt, and that's heavy duty asphalt, and as you can see, the number on there is $8.50. So it does save you some money, but it's just a conversation that you were having 5 minutes before I come up here, that, you know, asphalt is not gonna last as long as concrete, and eventually you're gonna have to fix it up. So
Not
it's-
for the buses, yeah.
so at some point, what I was telling Dr. Moreno is that what we can do is we can do an alternate, and we can have it priced both ways. That way you see what the difference in cost is, and then we can make an educated decision based on that.
With the numbers that you have right now, it's 41,000.
That difference roughly.
Difference.
And surrounding areas, do you see most M&Os, or where they keep their buses, do they have them covered?
No,
Or
not
they-
the buses.
They're always in the open?
They're always in the open. Yeah, and they have a real nice one in Cal Island, but it's open.
It's open also.
Mhm. Yeah,
Do
and
they
then-
have concrete? Or do you remember?
But, you know, concrete is the way to go for buses, because especially when they're churning, where they make the turns on the corners, that's where they always tear it up. And then you do have bad drainage here in Robstown, so it's another problem.
Okay, the only thing to consider too, as this plan is starting to be finalized, is if we decide to move like the children to the current front offices where M&O and technology is again, get an estimate on that, at least to resurface that drive, because that would be a lot more parents going there.
Yes. Yeah, we can definitely do that. There just seems to be drainage problems everywhere here in Robstown, and it just kind of like changes over time, and then you know, you can't just, we try to dump all the water onto the street, but it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it just comes back into here. But yeah, definitely we can do that.
Okay. So my question is gonna be, Dr. Moreno and Rogelio, is that, I know you were giving us a breakdown as to what it would cost the district if we were to go with a new facility versus doing what we're doing here. So you don't have a rendition for what it would cost, you were going based on what, to get that 800-something thousand?
So we have like no idea what it would look like, but that would be a CMU type of building, kind of like what a school would look like, so it would be a CMU.
Is it like a metal building?
No.
No?
So the costs that you're seeing here, that would be for big, okay, so if you do a metal building and if you have to have occupants in there 8 hours a day, then you have to comply with energy codes, which means that if you do a metal building, you might as well just do it out of CMU because it's basically gonna cost the same. So,
Okay.
you know, why do that? Just go with a CMU and break and make it look nice. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, this cost is $150 a square foot, which is kind of what we would see for an elementary school, kind of, you know, a very plain elementary school.
I'm just a little confused because I kind of like don't understand, like, I know that because we have the space, if you give me more rooms, I will put more things in there. So you now have a lot of space, Dr. Moreno, in the old Salazar building, so obviously everybody gets to have a little, spot for themselves. But was that really the need? Because
No,
we
these are
did it
needs.
before without all those offices at
Right.
M&O. I just don't understand
Yeah,
why
so-
it would cost that much more and why need all those office spaces.
So this, what you're looking at here, so basically for like an electrician's office and storage, you have 100 square feet, which is a very small office, that's a 10 by 10 office. That's what an office is, and that's what they would need. They don't really store that much stuff in there for an electrician. So those are the spaces that I'm putting a number to, but right now, what they're using is a classroom about this size,
Yeah.
which is a lot larger, and if you walk in there, they're basically empty. But they're using them because that's what they have.
But the vision too is, remember what is the big, let's go to page, the third page, this one, that he's talking from, that's a blue tent. And if you look right here, you see where the buses are? Right below it, it says dry storage.
I saw
That's the
that.
one that used to be in the old cafeteria. That's the one that we're right now starting to get ready to be like our warehouse. So there, at that point, right now, like all the maintenance workers, when materials are ordered, they go into their separate rooms. Again, the main thing, when you have a warehouse with somebody managing the inventory there that's going in and out, all materials that are ordered are put into the warehouse and somebody's checking out the materials versus things just being in separate rooms. So it's just a lot more organized. And it puts some use to that facility. I know that the old cafeteria, per se, it still has some real good bones to it. It still needs some repair for the roof. Leroy's already trying to get an estimate on that one. But other than that, a little paint, it's going to be nice. It's definitely going to work out. And I think we could even already start looking at shelving that could go into potentially laid out. So it looks nice and professional, and it's an organized space. Also in there would be the print shop, moving that from the high school to the warehouse itself, because it'd be the same person managing the print shop as well as managing the storage there.
Would that same person be the inventory?
Inventory clerk, for that,
Yes.
as well as doing the print shop. And all that, there's got a big stage in that particular room, and that's where the whole print area, we've already looked at it, she liked it too, so we can have the machines up there, so she'll have all that space in there. And then all the square footage in the actual, I'll call it the cafeteria, is more than available now. In the back side of this, you notice that little extension, all that's the kitchen area. It still has some items in there, but really it's just things that, if that was even cleared out, all of that would be sealed up behind closed doors, like locked up because of the way it's set up. So, I mean, it's really putting that whole area, that space to use. If we had anything as far as monies that was available from not as many parking spaces, like you said, possibly, that might be some of the TLC that we need for that, or even the front of the building, just to fresher paint, fresher look, just to continue enhancing it.
Yeah, we definitely need to get rid of all that old kitchen equipment stuff.
Dr. Moreno, did we put any money in the budget for this?
To do this whole project right now, the demolition, remember we had almost $200,000. So that takes care of the demolition. And then for this, because of what happened with the money that came back as far as the $500,000, now that could be allocated for this whole project here.
It won't cover it all, but it'll.
There's a good chance, depending on the final quote, that we may cover enough for it.
But it wasn't in the budget,
We have it in the budget, but it's set as a construction projects.
but no money is attached to it.
For construction. So that's why I said earlier it's 8.6 million. You take away that 5, it's going to go down to 8.1 million from the 5. The 200 is still separate.
The only thing I want to add, and I've already had this conversation with Dr. Moreno, is that, and there's nothing to do with the construction, it just has to do with the idea of utilizing this building for other functions. And one of the functions Dr. Moreno mentioned is the print shop, and I have concerns with that going to the area, because I feel that the print print shop was at the high school because it was like a career and technology type of growing feature for the kids. It used to have a classroom, and now we're like saying it's not needed because you're isolating it now in an area just to be like a copy center. And to me, I think it needs to be in the high school somewhere where at least kids could be, it should be a career program for them. If there's money in those kind of careers, you can establish a lot of different businesses having arts, graphic arts and all that. So eliminating that idea from the kids, to me, I just think has a problem. I see a problem with that. And then putting it over here just makes it seem to me like it's like a copy center with maybe one employee overseeing it, that's it. So.
I mean, and that, what Ms. Lorna is sharing, that's years back, there was an actual teacher.
Yeah,
but
we just lost that teacher not even 2 years ago, or about 2 years ago. We just did nothing else with it after it.
That was at the high school though.
At the high school.
Yeah.
It was very functionable. I mean, these kids were learning stuff, and they had Miss Mendes for so many years, and they would serve the community, you know, with that service.
But this is technology, basically just for the computers and all the like where Richard is at, basically.
Yeah, no,
right?
not Richard. We're talking about where he wants to put the print shop now.
Oh,
in the
I
cafeteria.
didn't see that. Is that what you said? I missed it.
And I'm not trying to go off the subject. I mean, we need to bring that to discussion, I think, with the board and with the other ideas on it for a career type of growth for the kids.
That definitely would take some additional conversation around it, because again, that program, I'd have to see how successful it was. Was there still high interest at the very end? And right now, because we offer so many courses that are now geared towards the early college, high school, or Del Mar, as far as those type of courses, is this really going to be a course that is worth continuing to invest in like that?
But you have to enhance it, Dr. Moreno. When you create a program for kids, you can't just let it be stagnant within its own use and its own purpose. It has to be promoted, it has to be grown. You have to kind of show the interest and, you know, let the kids see what kind of careers they could get out of being in that kind of environment, that work. I think if we do that and we polish it up, I think, yeah, you'd find more interest in it. But where it was and how we left it, I don't see how the interest will grow. But I'm just thinking it needs to be brought back. Maybe like when you do the review of all those programs that we have too many classes that are not being filled up with kids because there's no interest in them, then this could be when we can bring this.
When is that assessment going to be started?
We already started this past year. So one of the things is, and it's been brought up here with the board too, is how many kids are we sending to, because remember, what's unique about our school district, we're paying the full tuition. Not everyone pays the full tuition. But the number of courses, I will tell you this, as far as the audit that we've conducted, and even this summer, because we have a consultant that's also working with us with all the counselors, and the biggest investment of time has been this summer with the high school, and revamping and even looking at their course catalog. Basically, that's one of the recommendations, is that we're offering too many courses to get the depth of what we need, because that's why it's so hard even for the master scheduling. So part of that has to be looked at. One of the big things that we also looked at is when the early college high school was designed, and there's nothing wrong with it that was designed, but when you start looking at the long term, it's basically wall to wall. What I mean by that is that everybody has access. Well, everybody continues to have access, but really part of the recommendation, even on the blueprint, is to narrow it down so that you know that at least that those kids, like this year, our target range was 70 kids. 70 kids that start off as a freshman. That way you get more depth within those 70, and in the long run it starts to become more affordable to continue. Because it could get to a point where we can't afford to have full college tuition for our students, because it's too many. And then we have to look at the success rate too, because that's where it narrows down. Those kids are going to be more committed to making sure that if I get that chance to go to Del Mar, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing my best and not taking a risk of failing the class too.
Well, I just brought it up because I know you're talking about what you're going to do in that facility that we're looking at already.
Yeah, well, the scope of what we discussed before was basically just have that driveway that says delivery area on there, because if you remember that area, it has a canopy attached to it. That canopy is in terrible condition, so that's being demolished, and then we're basically patching whatever's left behind. And what I would like to do is go back with nice concrete in there in case you ever don't use it for deliveries.
The canopy like going in that hallway
Yes.
area?
Yeah, but that's the old
It's
one.
like a breezeway,
So
right?
you're gonna remove it?
Yeah,
It's a
it's already the
breezeway.
roof itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be redone.
Cafeteria?
Between the
Yes.
cafeteria and the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
Never when I was there.
Yeah.
it's just, in some areas, it's just rusting away, and it's just bad. We shouldn't have any more problems. So that's being demolished.
And I'm gonna share with you what I've shared with Dr. Moreno. I just, as a community member, I mean, I like the idea of saving the money for the district. I just don't like when we start piecemealing different, you know, you have a little bit of this and this style over here, a little bit of this style over here, and then you have, it all looks different. It doesn't look connected. Like when we did the high school, you know, the new additions to the high school, we made sure that we made it look like the old, like what's already existing. I just don't like the idea of us just making a decision to save money and not really make it fit all together. You know, we gotta make it look good if we're gonna bring it, like if it's something new for them.
Right.
I just, that's my whole thing. I'd like to see a new facility, actually, before I would do this. But of course, I'm only one board member. I'm just saying that because I really feel strongly that we could use a new facility for M&O. But if this is working because of the financing, then that's something we'll decide when the decision comes.
Okay. So I don't know if I'm supposed to kind of like work on this, or I've already brought it a few times, so I don't know if I should like, you know, kind of what I would like to do is I would like to just kind of move forward with this scheme that we have here and just kind of develop some schematic designs at least so that we can, you know, get some of our consultants working on it. But,
Is it an agenda item?
It's an informational item,
Oh.
not an action item.
So you
Yes.
just kind of want to get a consensus from those of us that are here?
Well, the consensus, I guess, not from the board, but you and the superintendent, yeah, since it's not an action item or anything like that.
Yeah.
Superintendent should be.
So you're gonna bring it back to the board?
Yeah, I definitely will. I just really what would help to narrow it down is if there's an agreement that we would utilize these facilities versus, because there were two other plans that were established, because then we're back to square one as far as what do we do?
We'll just bring it before the board as an action item and plan A, plan B, and then we'll put the dollar amount and see if it's feasible. That's,
I think that would work for me,
Yeah.
because I think, I mean, even though you're giving us a roundabout figure of what it would cost for a new building, but we don't have no idea of knowing what it would look like.
maybe a rendition of a new
I'm not saying to give too much detail in it, but give an idea of what it would cost, like you were breaking it down for us, but at least we get to see where it would be somewhere else instead of trying to piecemeal it right here.
okay. Yeah. So basically, you know, those the floor plan that's there. I mean, I can just do like kind of like a 3D short.
Yeah, not too much, so we won't spend too much time on it.
Okay. I can definitely do it. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rogelio.
All right, trustees, and then as far as superintendent updates, I just want to let you know that we had a good first day. What I mean by first day right now, getting the little ones. Oh, it's great to see kids in the schools. It's sad to see empty schools, you know. So I was really happy to see that. You know, some little, not too many, but I know slowly they'll start transitioning in. But I did want to give you at least a breakdown as far as our numbers today. So at the Robson Early College High School for this first, remember it's 25% for these first 2 weeks. Our projection was 166 kids at the 25%. We had 99 show up. Now I predict that tomorrow we should start seeing definitely more of the students because these were parents that had already committed to coming in. So I was surprised to see not all were there. Salazar, we had 3 that committed to come in out of the group. None of them came in. Seal, we had 140 that were registered to come in. We had 112 that showed up. Ortiz was pretty close. 78 that had committed to come in on the 25%. We had 74 that showed up. That was real good. Robert Driscoll, 133. And we had 89 that showed up today. San Pedro, really close as well, 56 that were committed to come in. We had 50 to come in, show up. Lot speech, 61 that committed to come in. We had 59 show up, so that was very close as well. So right now, out of 637 students that we were expecting today, we had 483 students that showed up. So calls being made, definitely knocks on doors in order to recoup these children, as well as recouping all the students. So the first 2 weeks, once we started August the 19th, we recouped about 200 kids right off the bat. But right now we're up, I would say, I want to give you just a range of about 300 from the last time that we checked last week that were still no-shows. So normally right after Labor Day is when you start to really start to pick up the momentum. So now it's just us being consistent and trying to get the rest of the kids in. I would say though that based on what we're seeing right now, although the numbers are going down as far as positivity rate for COVID, that's really, as they call parents that are already committed, that's part of it. They're just still uneasy. So that's just going to be, I think, seeing more of the yellow buses going down the streets, starting to hear more friends coming into school. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, for the initial, I think parents are still very afraid, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Dr. Moreno, is your ADA different? I mean, your daily attendance, is it?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're hurting, but for the kids that we have in, we have the proof to say that they're in. That's why the commissioner is giving us the first 2-6 weeks compared to last year's first 2-6 weeks to get an average of where we are to be able to impact on funding. Because that's what's expected across. Now you're going to have certain communities that you're going to see a lot more kids who are in attendance, but it's going to vary. Mm-hmm. But that's why they're giving us that cushion at that point. And now Nina, any questions, trustees, on this? Okay, so Nina, if you get a minute, please check out our main webpage, and on the Facebook page you'll see a video that was created last week. I was very proud of Richard and Kelsey. We used one school, we used SEAL to model all the different expectations, the safety expectations for our kids. Just take a minute. It takes about 3 minutes to see it, but that was made in-house. Again, showing our parents what the routines will look like in a school setting. All right, Nina, you want to go list the bills?
Yes, sir. Good evening, board members and Dr. Moreno. I'll draw your attention to pages 8 through 25. The list of bills is approximately $2.8 million, and again, that's exclusive of payroll. And board members, at any time, if you have any questions today or in the future, if you'll just send me an email, I'll be happy to pull any bill for you that you have questions on. Any questions for today?
No.
Okay, Nina, your financial statement?
Page 28 of the financials is a little scary, but I want to explain it. If you look, function 11 on page 28, it appears that we have overspent function 11 by $421,000. That would be an audited exception. However, if you remember last month, y'all approved a budget amendment where I removed about $1.3 million of revenue and $1.3 million of teacher salaries, and we're going to have to move it over into another fund, 266. That's the ESSER money that we received. The budget amendment is in there. However, I haven't done any closed out entries for August. So once I enter that closeout entry, we'll end up with about $500,000 in the red, in the black rather than in the red. And that's really only one item that I have to highlight for the financials. Are there any questions?
Okay, and the quarterly report?
This is just a required report. Every 3 months we have to bring a quarterly report of our finance, of our amount invested. And at the end of August, we had almost $10.5 million in cash invested in Lone Star, our investment pool.
Right.
Earning no money at all, basically. That's just sign of the time, so it has nothing to do with the fund. It's just interest rates are really bad right now. Any questions on the financials or the investment report?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, item number 6, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's a consent agenda item, sir.
Trustees, we ask that you approve all minutes and approve of budget amendments.
Yes, recommendation from staff that we approve all minutes and all budget amendments. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Lopez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Roldan. Any questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous? We go to business and support, sir, action items, sir.
Trustees, on this particular one, this is for transparency, and always, want to make sure we're always transparent with you. On discuss and consider approval of revised compensation plan. All this is, trustees, is that one of the items on page 65, which you'll notice, just because you already adopted, I want to make sure we brought it back to you regardless. On page 66, this particular one, you're normally going to always see the 20 years. We had one in it that was up to 27 years. All we did is corrected that and brought it to the 20 years versus the 27 years. So what you have in here is the correct version of it. And if you look across the whole compensation plan, that's what what you look at is 20 years across the board.
You said we had somebody that was 27 years?
No, the scale was put at 27 versus the 20 years. So all we did is just, we caught it after reviewing the whole thing again.
Okay. Good.
So we ask that you consider approval of revised compensation plan as it pertains to the administrator pay grades at 20 years versus the 27 years.
Recommendation from staff that we approve the revised compensation plan that discussed in we discussed in the meeting right now about going into the 20 years instead of the 27.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion? Move by Mr. Lopez, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Corona. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? We'll go to B, sir.
Richard, you said yes? I think so.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
The next item, trustees, is to discuss and consider approval to install synthetic turf at the school district's 3 athletic fields with a proposed financial and administrative plan of action by district administration for board consideration and matters related to thereto. So trustees, on this particular item is just like what we talked about earlier as far as the bus barn, is a commitment then at this point that the board wants to continue moving forward. That then charges me to continue looking at the finances and as far as administrative plan, but it's showing a commitment on the board by the board to look at the 3 athletic fields for turf installment. I do have Mr. Tijerina, Robert Tijerina, our financial advisor here, to be able to give us options, because that's the main thing, is what are our options to be able to make something like this happen. So he's going to talk to us about that area. So Robert?
Good evening, Mr. Lopez, board members, and staff. We're Director Robert Tijerina with the Bobby Lawrence. We are the district's financial advisor. I hope everyone and their families have been doing well over the last few months. And again, I'm here this evening with the plan of finance, potentially get some guidance on the potential maintenance tax notice issuance. And I believe you have a handout. And on page 2,
One second, Robert. One second, let them get to the handout.
Like this one.
You got it.
You got it.
Okay, go ahead, Robert.
and then on page 2, we have the sources and uses for the tax notes, series 2020. And as Dr. Moreno clearly stated, we're looking at turf replacements for all 3 fields. So this is very preliminary. It's not final or set in stone, but it's the turf replacements for the baseball field, softball field, football field. The par amount is $3,255,000. And below the uses, we have the project fund for the replacement of the 3 fields. Again, preliminary, $3,200,000. The cost of issuance includes FA, bond counsel, placement agent, and Texas Attorney General fee expenses totaling out $55,000. So the sum of those two come out to $3,255,000. The delivery date we're estimating, this item were to be approved, and we fast forward a month from now, present the final terms to the financing. The district would receive the funds on November the 12th. The estimated interest rate is 2%. And spoke to Dr. Moreno earlier today. Based on an indication that he received, there were some lease interest rates that were provided to the district on the range of anywhere from 2.85 to 2.87%. And the two scenarios that we're looking at are 8 years, which actually comes, our scenario, case A, just under 8 years at 7.26%, and a 10-year scenario, which case B comes out right at 9.26 years. And the reason is we have the principal payments set in February and not in August, just to stay with the norm of what the district's current entrance and sinking fund tax rate that is scheduled out. Now, if you turn to the next page, page 3, we have the debt service requirements for limited maintenance tax debt. This is information, a spreadsheet that we prepare on behalf of the school district, and we provide this information to the district's bonding council to pass the Texas Attorney General's maximum debt service coverage based on their formula that they have, and their formulas can be found on column R, row 29. And it's a formula using some of this information here. And right now, column Q is the main, column Q and R are the main two indicators on what the Texas Attorney General will allow an issuer, meaning Robstown Independent School District, to have an outstanding M&O debt. And the maximum debt is $1,282,915. And then again, that can be found on columns Q and R. So right now, from column C through O, it's blank. The district currently does not have any maintenance and operation, maintenance tax notes. Again, maintenance tax notes debt that's outstanding. Now, before I go into the following page, which we have a breakdown of the principal and interest payments, and again, by considering this item and moving forward with it, if we were to come back next month and we approve the financing as final, receive the funds November the 22nd, we scheduled a payment for August 2021. And the reason is the lending institutions, the banks, when they loan you money, they want a debt payment, whether it be principal and interest or interest only. They want a payment within 12 calendar months. So if you were to receive the funds in November 2020, in a couple of months, your payments are set and scheduled for February and August, so the next payment would be set for August of 2021. And right now we have that payment on the following page estimated at about $75,000. And again, that's if you want to move forward with the debt issuance here within the next couple of months. If you were to wait until, say, February of next year, the first payment, if you were to move forward with this financing in February of 2021, the first payment would be in February 2022. And the reason is we would close sometime in March, and we would be within that 12 months of the next scheduled payment, which would be February 2022. And again, if this item is approved, whether this here in the next few months or next year, your M&O debt can be moved to the INS debt. And I believe I shared this with Dr. Moreno. He asked a lot of good questions in the last few weeks. If we were to incur this M&O debt based on the call feature, based on the district's INS tax rate, based on the property values. And I know just last month, earlier this year, the district was looking at a Chapter 313 agreement with a company that is now I guess, filed bankruptcy. So if everything were to go into play, property values increase, another company were to come in and fill in that gap of the firm that filed in bankruptcy, property values go up, INS tax rate comes down. The district has an opportunity to refinance the debt from the M&O side to the INS side, and it would require a bond election, a referendum, either on November or May. And again, a few key factors: what are your property values doing? What's the interest and sinking fund tax rate? And what is the call feature on the maintenance tax on debt? Now, a few other things that we wanted to talk about before going in again to page 3. The district since 2010, you have paid down roughly about $11 million of principal on your voted INS debt. All the bond elections that the voters approved from 2010 to now, you paid down about $10.6 million of principal, and you paid down about $28.6 million of interest, and some of that interest is due to about 5 or 6 refundings, including the one that was approved in July, refinancings since 2014 that the district has done. So in essence, from 2014 to now, the only financings that have impacted the INS tax rate has been refundings that the district has done, where you lower the interest rate on your debt and you save on money for the taxpayers and for the state. So the principal that you have outstanding currently, roughly 47.4%, 47.4 million, and if you subtract the state assistance that you receive on that, roughly about 26.7%, your net is 34.6 million. So I'm going over these things because I know there's some concern, Dr. Moreno had some concern as far as the first rating. How is that going to impact the district's rating with TEA? So again, keep in mind, since 2014, the district hasn't issued any maintenance tax note debt or any INS debt that would increase the tax rate. So again, let's see, if we could go to the next page, I guess it's page 4, I believe, and on columns I, K, and M, I, K, M, and O, it is filled in. So based on that statement, how much principal does the district have currently? $47.4 million. These maintenance tax notes are going to make up about 6.7% of that. So 6.7 of your outstanding principal and the voted approved debt is going to be issued potentially as maintenance tax notes debt. And the reason I bring that up, there's about 27, and I think Nina's done a great job since she's been on board on getting the district and that first rating through TEA an A superior. The criteria has changed. There have been some additional criteria from what I understand over the last year or two. There's about 21 points that TEA has requires the district to go through before they come out with a rating. And again, the district's most recent rating, and Nina, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's an A superior. You can't get any better and can't get any higher than that. Again, the district has that rating outstanding. Some of the criteria, without going into detail, they look at cash fund balance. Right now, the district added from fiscal year 18 to 19, the district added about 1.7 million, a superb and excellent job, 1.7 million of fund balance from one year to the next. So your fiscal year ending, I believe the amount was stated earlier, fiscal year ending 19, your fund balance is 8.6 million and some change. Your expenses, based on your annual expenses, your monthly expenses average out to about $2.3 million. So when you take that 2.3, divide that by your fund balance, you're just under 4 months worth of reserves. So what does TEA, what does the bond rating companies like to look at? Mainly the bond rating companies, which you have a rating right now with Moody's of 8.3, but what they like to see is have a district have savings set aside that's equivalent to 3 months worth of expenses, and right now the district has just under 4 months, 8.6 million, and again, you average about 2.3 a month. Again, the fund balance, the cash balances are one of the criterias. Another one is long-term liabilities to total assets. You're looking at adding additional debt, which would increase your long-term liability. But what you're doing with the money is you're improving your assets. You're replacing the turfs on all 3 fields, which means the value of your asset is now going to increase. So again, that may be a wash in the eyes of TEA. We don't know, issuing this maintenance tax notes, given what TEA has done over the last year or two, they change and add the criteria. So will this impact the A rating, that superior rating that the district has? We don't know, because we don't know what TEA is going to do with their criteria. Are they going to add more points or more criteria for all school districts to abide by? We don't know. We know they recently did. Other things that they look at, not only debt, but looking at, again, like I said, total liabilities over assets. They look at fund balance. They look at your audit. And I think Dr. Moreno and Nina have done a great job, along with the board, increasing the fund balance. Things aren't going to happen unless the board sees the vision, and you increase your fund balance 1.7 million from 18 to 19. But again, the criteria involves the audit. Is the audit done on time? Is the district late on any of the bond payments? What are the opinions in the audit? Are they unqualified, which they have been? Unqualified is what you want. It's a great opinion from the auditor. What you don't want is a qualified opinion, meaning it's not so good, the district isn't following certain protocols that they should be, and you don't want an adverse opinion, which means this is really bad. The numbers just don't add up, and the district has always had an unqualified opinion from my experience. And again, it goes back to the staff and it goes back to the board, what you've done over the years. I know the fund balance was a little lower a few years ago, and you've increased it. Another criteria that they look at is the enrollment. What is the district's enrollment done? Is it dropping? Is it decreasing, or is it increasing, or is it staying stagnant? And I know in 2010, the district had average ADA of about 3,039. Now the enrollments under 2,400 or right at 2,400. So there's other criteria that they look at that's going to impact that A superior rating. And I believe Nina probably remembers this better than I do, or knows better than I do. On your debt, they gave you the highest 10 points within the last year or two. You can't get any better than that. And what the district has done over the last 6 years on the INS side, and again, you didn't issue any maintenance tax notes debt. Your INS side, all you've done is refinance your debt. You've lowered the interest rate, and you've lowered the interest that the district pays out. So that formula that they look at has gone lower and lower. Your property values have gone up in that same time frame. In 2010, your property values were $353 million. Now I believe they're about $657 million. This is without that Chapter 313 agreement that I think everybody here is crossing their fingers that comes into play here in the next few years. Once we get out of this pandemic, once we get a vaccine, we get back to the norm, and we get back to normal, values go up. So again, I know there's some concern about that rating. You got a 10, the highest you could get on that category of your debt. You have an A superior. There's other factors that don't have to do with debt that are out of our control, the ADA. So again, we know it's one factor, but it's not the main factor. It's just one of many, and in the next year or two, it could change. TEA right now, they're looking at to impact fiscal year ending 2020. This debt, if approved, is going to be in the 20 to 21 rating assessment. So it's not going to be part of your 2020 audit. It's not going to be part of your 1920 category. I don't believe so. I'm going to correct me if I'm wrong. But again, there's a lot of good factors, and Dr. Moreno's done a great job to ask several different ways. How is this going to impact us? Is this going to have a negative impact on us? Again, your fund balance is just shy of 4 months. If the fund balance, if your expenses were to still be $2.3 million a month, and your fund balance goes from $8.6 million to $7.1 million, and expenses stay the same the next 2 to 3 years, you're still going to be at that 3 months worth of reserves. Again, if you dwindle down fund balance to 1.5, you've been great stewards. That's not going to happen. The board won't allow that to happen. Dr. Moreno and Nina won't allow that to happen. So again, I haven't even asked a great question that, yeah, I'm not going to put Nina on the spot, but the question is, how much are you going to add to the fund balance from 19 to 20? And again, increasing it is only going to be better for the school district. So with all those bullet points being said, talking about the criteria, we don't know if it's going to have any kind of impact or not. Criteria is changing, adding on. But is the district in a good position to do maintenance tax notes? From my standpoint, interest rates a year ago when we talked to the board, when we had that workshop in the fall, we had an indication of 2.5%. Interest rates right now, the indication we got this morning after talking with Dr. Moreno, 2% on an 8 or 10-year structure. Right now, we know the leases are 2.85 to 2.87. Interest rates are down. If you ask somebody a year ago, what were the turfs, what would it cost a year ago? I think it would be more, it would be less than what they're telling you right now. If you were to ask somebody, what would they be a year from now, they're going to be more than what they're telling you right now. And I believe the gentleman, the architect, the young man that was there earlier, he represents Brooks County ISD. We had a project to expand the elementary wing from when we received the funds and when the bids came in, it was at least $200,000 to $300,000 more in just that 2 to 3 month time. And this was late last year. So getting back to the presentation on columns I, K, and M, and I'm sorry that was a lot of information, but I know this is a very sensitive topic because we've been talking about it the last few months and even since last year. But on the principal and interest payments on columns I, K, and M, we would have a principal and interest payment scheduled and set up for next August, and it would be roughly $74,000. Budget's already been set. Where would that payment come from? It would come from either a budget adjustment, the fund balance, but right now, I know every year the district sets up an X amount of money to maintain those fields. If you're looking to replace all 3 of those fields, how much was that amount? And that amount can be allocated towards that payment for next August. So again, the total payments on column M, $74,000, then $45,000 and $445,000 and $447,000, and then we leveled it out to about $515,000 from 2024 to 2028. And if you look at column Q, you still have capacity when the Texas Attorney General Office looks at this spreadsheet. They're saying on column Q, row 112 through 118, this is just the M&O debt, maintenance and operation, the debt that the AG is going to approve. They're saying, based on our spreadsheet, we have about $800,000 to $767,000 of debt capacity. Once that debt is paid off in 2028, you jump back up to $1,282,000. You are now debt free on the M&O side. And I know that there's a lease that has been talked about. I know we didn't participate in it. I believe Dr. Moreno or Nina weren't here. That lease was an energy efficiency lease that was entered into by the school district. And those are normally tied to almost a guarantee by the companies and individuals that are doing the projects for the school district, saying if you replace these items, all the savings, I'm just going to give an example, your annual light and gas expense is $1 million. The annual payment on the lease, I believe, is about $500,000. If you replace it all, you're going to save $700,000. But it goes from $1 million, and this is just an example, to $300,000. So that savings is going to pay for that lease that you entered into a few years ago. So the payment is still going to be made by the district to take care of those lease payments. So you're still making a payment out there to pay that lease off. But if you look at the overall savings on the utility, on the expense side, did you lower it? And that's something that I think Nina can share better with you than I can. What are your expenses before and after you did all the repairs and replacements for that energy efficiency program? So again, on this page, I believe on page 4, it's an 8-year scenario. And again, the total principal on column I is $3,255,000. Total interest $287,000. That's on column K, row 128. For total principal and interest on column M, $3,542,318. This is all preliminary. I know Dr. Moreno has been discussing exactly, try to nail down the exact amount of what the cost would be. This is preliminary, and so it's the interest rate. So if we go to the next page, this is page 5, on the very bottom, page 5, on the top row 201, columns O and P, it's case B. It's a 10-year maturity structure. The first payment for next August remains the same, roughly $74,000. Then the payments in fiscal year 22 to 23, roughly about $340,000, followed by $400,000 to about $410,000, all the way down to fiscal year ending 2030. And we all know the longer you go out, the less your payments are per year, but you add more interest to the overall loan. Because on the prior page it was $287 on interest, and on this page, page 5, it's roughly $368 or $359,000. So about $70,000 you added of additional interest by just going out those 2 extra years. This doesn't have to be decided on today. If you could give Dr. Moreno some guidance, we've been on calls over the last few weeks. He'll let me know here in the next week or 2, based on the guidance the board gives to him, whether we go the 8-year payout or the 10-year payout. And on the capacity on column 2, because we went on column Q, because we went with a 10-year payout, our payments are less, so we have more capacity to issue additional M&O debt on column Q. We're not saying that's going to happen. We're just showing you the spreadsheet we provide to bond counsel, which he turns around and provides to the Texas AG's office. And the remaining information on column S and T and column U. Column S is the district's recently approved M&O compressed tax rate of $1.04 and changed. 90% collection, that's the minimum amount that Texas AG requires us to use as far as collection percent. And column U is the taxable assessed valuation that was recently adopted and approved, about $657 million on the property values. And on the next page is, again, the preliminary timetable. If this item is approved, you're not agreeing to enter into the financing. All you're agreeing is allowing myself, the bond counsel, McCall Parker Support, to work with Dr. Moreno, to work with Nina, to go out there and get a bid sheet together with a placement agent and obtain the lowest interest rate possible for these maintenance tax notes. So if this item is approved, we'll come back on October the 12th, which I believe is a regular scheduled meeting, and I don't want to put Edith on the spot, but she'll correct me later today, tonight, or tomorrow and tell me that's a regular meeting or not. But assuming that it is, we'll have a board meeting on October the 12th, and on that evening, we'll have the winning bid from the bank, and we'll have the final locked-in interest rate from that bank, and given the term of 8 years or 10 years, and it doesn't reset, every debt outstanding that the district has issued on the INS side and these maintenance tax notes are locked in and fixed. So for whether it be the next 8 years or 10 years, the interest rate will be locked in and it won't change until the debt's paid off. And if that item is approved on October the 12th, the district will receive the funds on November the 12th. Nina will provide us with the closing account information. The funds will be wired to the district. Roughly $3,200,000 will be wired that day to the district to start their projects. Now, if for any reason the board, Dr. Moreno, wants to start any of the projects now, the next board meeting you can approve, I would recommend approving a reimbursement resolution that allows the board to go ahead and start the projects now. You approve the reimbursement resolution at your next meeting. And then when you receive the funds on November the 12th, whether you spend $25,000 or $50,000, when you receive the funds on November the 12th, and you had already spent funds before November the 12th, you can take bond proceeds on November the 12th or 13th, and Nina can take the bond proceeds and reimburse the general fund with a reimbursement resolution. If you're not going to spend any money between now and closing, no need to do a reimbursement resolution. But if you are going to spend funds towards these three projects before then, I highly recommend, just for safety purposes, approving that reimbursement resolution. Because all it is a document allowing you to do that legally, because without it, you wouldn't be able to do it legally. And your external auditor would want to see that. And if you were ever to be audited by the IRS, they would want to see that, because they're going to see funds transferred from the project fund account to the general fund, and that's the first thing they're going to ask for. Again, I know it's a lot of information, and I went off, but again, I know it's a topic we've been talking about for many, many months since last year. Dr. Moreno's done a great job of asking a lot of these questions that I've already pretty much presented during this time frame. Dr. Moreno, board members, is there any questions?
I have a question. On the interest rate, do you foresee that, I think it sounded like it won't change between now and the next month, or maybe even 2 months on the decision?
We had an indication from the placement agent today, and again, when I spoke with Dr. Moreno this morning, we kind of put that individual on a pinch by getting him to turn around and see what kind of indications were out there. We're hoping it's 2% or less. And again, given the district's bond rating, given the size of the financing, if it is $3.2 million or just below or just above, there's going to be a lot of banks that are interested in this type of financing because it's maintenance tax notes, your ad valorem tax-based pledge, and it's a substantial, large size issuance that the district is doing. When it's $1 million or less, a lot of banks tend to pass on it. So we're hoping this will adapt, who's asked the question, at least 2% or even lower.
Or even lower. That's the other part of the question, whether if it was lower, would we be able to lock in at the lower by the time?
Yes, ma'am. On October the 12th is when the interest rate is going to get locked in.
Okay.
The document that bond counsel and ourselves are going to work on to get to the placement agent is called a bid sheet, term bid sheet. We're going to say bids are due on October the 12th at this time, 11 a.m. and all the bids are going to come in. And once they come in, That's it, it's done, and we present the lowest interest rate to the board that evening, and they'll consider it as final and approve it. So it'll be locked in on October 12th.
And just so you know, trustees, that again, part of the procurement process that we look at, most of these companies, and all I've done is what's called an analysis. So basically, I got a scope of work from two companies just to get a sense of, okay, what is even the numbers right now that I'd be even looking at. And the 3.2 right now, and again, it's a rough proposal, but it's on the high end.
Right, it could be less.
So right now, even at 3.2, it's very likely it would be less than that. But it's best to plan for the worst. That way, when you really start looking at the crunching down numbers and looking at various co-ops, because to follow procurement process too, what we want to do is come into one of the co-ops, and there's several out there. Like Buy Board is one, but they have a certain percentage. I just got a whole list of them just this, I think it was Friday, from various school districts across the state of Texas or even outside of Texas that have, again, other co-ops, which the interest may be a little bit less or not. So it just depends. Those are all things that we look at, but to make sure that we're following the right procurement process as well.
Okay.
So right now, again, the 3.2 is on the high end.
Right. One more question, Mr. Tejerina. With the Permago project, being kind of on limbo right now for us, it doesn't mean, well, would it be more positive if it goes through? Because obviously, I mean, that's the way we're looking at it. We wouldn't be moving forward with them if it doesn't look like that company could either sell and another buyer comes in and fulfills that project, then we'll be in a better position also, right?
Absolutely. Dr. Moreno asked this a few weeks ago. I think at about 7:30 in the morning we spoke, and it was probably about 2 weeks ago we discussed that if somebody else comes in and fills in for them, whether it be a year, 3 years down the road, there's no guarantees, but once everything turns around, we get through this pandemic, if somebody comes in and fills that gap, you're going to see benefits on the Chapter 313 agreement. Your property values are going to be capped on the M&O side, but you're still going to receive benefits. I think Nina did a great job last fall presenting the cash flow coming in on the M&O side. So you'll be building up the fund balance on the M&O side if another company comes in and fills in their agreement, whether it be a year, 2 years down the road, and then you're going to receive the benefit on the INS side because there's no cap there. Your property values now are $657 million. We're estimating well over $1 billion, I believe, last year based on the assumptions that they provided us with. They provided Nina and she turned around and provided me with. So when the values go up, INS tax rate comes down. So it gets back to that point earlier on the presentation. If you do this debt, depending on the call feature, if another company comes in on the Chapter 313 agreement and we pass that call feature 2-3 years down the road or even a year down the road, we can go to the voters and ask them to allow the district to refinance the debt, this maintenance tax notes, from the M&O to the INS. And here's the thing, Ms. Orona and Dr. Moreno, we discussed this before. Once it's moved over to the INS side, the district now qualifies that debt for existing debt allotment. You're now going to receive state assistance on those payments, roughly 27%, based on the state assistance you receive now. So again, it all depends when we move it over. The state assistance could kick in. Worst case scenario, the third year, or best case scenario, you go 1 year on your own, the second year the state assistance kicks in. So again, moving it over from the M&O to the INS requires voter approval, and it qualifies for existing debt allotment state assistance.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tejerina, just to recap, and I know you said quite a bit and we've been talking, and thank you for coming on board with us today. Because we have a A+ rating, it's a healthy fund balance, a very good fund balance. We've been waiting
for as long as I've been on the board, my vision and I know that the board as well has a vision for our community, and this will be an asset for the community as well. The interest is at a record low, at a 2.0. It's almost unheard of for this type of project. And then if we were to delay it, then of course everything goes up, the cost goes up, the material, everything goes up. From 3 years ago, it was 2.5. We're looking at now 3.1, possibly, so if we continue and postpone to another year or 3 more years again, it'll go up another, 5.0, so another 0.4%. So that's what I'm talking about. So your recommendation is to, at this point, to move forward because we are in a good position, correct?
Yes, ma'am. The districts, again, your fund balance, the debt criteria, again, since 2014, all the district has done, I know TEA sees that lease, but as far as voted approved debt on the IMS side, maintenance tax notes debt, in the last 6-7 years, from my perspective, all the district has done is refinance the debt. We've added a lease, which could be part of the calculation where the district gave 10 points, or the TEA gave the school district 10 points on the debt category. And I'm assuming they looked at that lease. So you're adding about, $3.2 million of additional debt. You've saved $25 million you paid down $20-some million, and part of that, of the interest of the last 6 years, is refinancing your debt. So I would recommend moving forward with this because it's, again, you're going to add, I'm hoping, and I believe, again, not putting you on the spot, add to your fund balance. Everything looks good now. The board, the staff has done a wonderful job to get that rating. And again, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. They're going to add to it or not the criteria. But yes, to answer the question, I recommend this. I know it's been something that's been talked about, but interest rates are low now. We're at 2.5 in the fall, and that was on the conservative side. We know that once a vaccine comes out, things are going to get back to normal. When things get back to normal, interest rates are going to go back up. And we know that even in the last 7 months, any kind of project out there, water, sewer, streets, curb gutter, whatever it is, that has gone up over the last year. The only thing that's come down as part of the component of this financing are the interest rates. And that really happened right when COVID hit mid-March, where Fed lowered interest rates down to what Nina said, we're barely getting anything, just barely above zero. We were over, I think, close to 2%, and now we're just at 0.25%. But once the vaccine comes out, the economy gets better, they're going to turn things around and rates are going to go back up.
And you mentioned the reimbursement resolution to allow us to start in October, and the only reason I mentioned that is because it's starting to, the weather's going to change, and we'd like to start early because we'd like to have it ready for our students to start in the spring. So that's something we can come and proceed with it. Is that correct, the way you said it? Would allow us to start in October with the resolution?
Dr. Moreno could give me some guidance later this evening or tomorrow, and I can contact bond counsel to provide a reimbursement resolution if that's something the board and Dr. Moreno wanted to pursue and have it ready for the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Trustees, based on the information that we've received and the low percentage rates at this point, we recommend consider approval to install synthetic turf at the school district's 3 athletic fields with a proposed financial and administrative plan of action by district administration for board consideration and matters related thereto.
The recommendation from staff that we approve to install synthetic turf in the school districts, the 3 athletic fields with a proposed financial and administrative plan of action by district administration for board consideration and matters related thereto. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, go ahead.
He read it.
I want to read it. can I read it?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the installation of synthetic turf at the school district's 3 athletic fields, the baseball, softball, and the football field.
There's a motion by Ms. Roldan to approve the installing of the synthetic turf to the high school, to the softball and to the stadium, the three of them. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Second. That's a motion by the second by Mr. Lopez. Any questions?
I do, Dr. Moreno. So, the way, Mr. Tejerina explained it, you will come back to us in October, or next month, to approve the actual amount, Mr. Tejerina, and everything, because by then we'll know the interest rate and everything. We still have to come back and approve that, even though we're moving forward right now.
And Dr. Moreno will, here within the next week to 2 weeks, he's going to let me know what the cost is, if it's lower than 3.2 million, and which maturity structure, 8-year versus 10 years. So once Dr. Moreno gives me the guidance and direction with those 2 items, we'll present the final interest rate, final maturity structure on October the 12th.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? We go to item 8, sir, instruction items, sir.
Trustees, this is something that we commonly come to you with, is discuss and consider approval of a class size waiver, exemption waiver. And this is just, again, because remember, K to second is 22 kids. And anytime that we have over 22, let's say if we had 23 children in one particular class, then at that point it makes more sense for us to apply for waiver versus hiring another teacher. So again, this is pretty standard, but we're requesting for you to consider approval of a class size exceptional waiver.
Any recommendations, sir?
To approve a class size waiver, exemption waiver for.
So moved.
There's recommendation from staff that we approve a class size exception waiver. Motion by Ms. Rona, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lopez, any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous, we go to B, action item, discuss and consider approval to submit Roxanne ISD.
Trustees, we're prepared to provide you a brief presentation on this, but let me explain, and it requires, and that'll depend on you if we continue to move forward with the presentation. What we're asking to consider approval to submit Robstown ISD's 2020-2021 asynchronous plan to the Texas Education Agency. Lorena is prepared to give us a brief presentation on this. So let me just explain what this is. All of the state of Texas right now that we're looking at are a synchronous plan, which again is live instruction, or asynchronous. Asynchronous being part of our plan that we have in place that would also allow us to not only have live, but also where kids work independently at different times, or they're, in this case, because of the situation we're in, have instructional packets where they're working independently as well. So you have a combination of both the synchronous and asynchronous. And so part of this, in order to get it approved, now, if you approve it tonight, then we send it to TEA, they give us any feedbacks on our plan. At that point, we'd adjust anything if needed, and then continue to move forward for us to continue moving as we are. The reason this is so important, though, is because it ties to funding. So if we don't have an asynchronous plan, we don't get the funding. Because kids, that doesn't mean that our students are in class every single day. They're operating from home. So with this case, it allows us to do that. So Lorena, I'll go ahead and allow you to start at this time. If you can move forward. And again, trustees, it's a brief presentation, but it gives you the highlights of what the whole plan structure is.
I'm here.
Okay.
Didn't even notice we didn't have this one on. I
I've been trying to watch on the other one. Now we're finishing and Richard turns off. Good job, Richard.
This is an important one. We saved it for Lorena.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I'm here to present what our asynchronous plan contains and what we did to meet the criteria that DEA had set forth for us to come up with these, the instructional plan to address the needs of our remote learners. So the plan itself, in your packet, you have a copy of the plan. It was included. The full plan was included in the packet. and I just want to go over the requirements. So TEA, in order for us to submit an asynchronous plan, we must address 4 key requirements as TEA has set forth. We have to have instructional schedules, materials design that are adaptable to the remote learners, and then we also have to have a way to measure progress in terms of for attendance and also for student achievement, for mastery of content. And then we also have to have an implementation piece that addresses the professional development for both teachers and also a family communication piece and parent training and support for the students that are learning at home. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the instructional schedules. So in the plan, page 3 and 4 actually gives you the attestation piece. It gives you all the requirements of each of these components. So in the instructional schedule piece, we have the instructional schedules begin on page 5 of the plan and go all the way to page 16. If you take a look at those pages, you see that we have an instructional schedule band for pre-K 3 and 4, one for kinder, an instructional schedule from 1st grade to 3rd grade, a 4th grade schedule, a 5th grade schedule, a 6th through 8, and a 9th through 12. The instructional schedules were developed to ensure that there's consistency across the learning environments. So basically what that means is the expectations for the students that are coming in person are the same as those that are learning at home. The instructional schedules, if you take a look at them, they include timestamps of when students are able to log in to receive synchronous or live instruction. In other words, to meet with teachers and get that instruction with the teachers. There's periods of time, they're designated in the schedule of when students can log in, as well as asynchronous time or time where they can complete assignments on their own at home. There's also specific times for students to receive instructional support. That's a big piece in the requirements of TEA, that we have designated time for teachers to meet with students that are doing remote learning and receive that extra support should they need it. Teachers can initiate that as small group interventions, or students can initiate that meeting with teachers. And those are designated in the schedules as teacher office hours. And if you look at the schedules, there's a link at the bottom of the page. You can see that all master schedules have been linked to the plan. Of course, when we submit the plan to TEA, it's going to be virtual. It's going to be online, so the links are going to be live. And so that, linking the master schedules, because on the master schedules, we have annotated the office hours. Another big piece of the instructional schedules is we must have differentiation for students with additional learning needs that are listed specifically for our special ed population, 504, dyslexic students, our English learners, as well as our life skills and our homebound students. So in the plan, in the pages 5 through 16, you see that all those summaries and explanations of how we address all the different learning populations are there. The next piece that we had to address was the materials design. We needed to take a look at our curriculum resources that we currently use for the in-person instruction and make sure that those resources are adaptable to the asynchronous learning, to the remote learners. And so this piece, what we did is we list all our different curriculum pieces that we have. Here in this presentation, I've listed a few of them. That are either online, that can be adaptable or are adaptable to online learning. On page 17 to 23 of the plan, you also have some explanations as to how we address the different learning needs of the students. The other big piece on this plan, of course, is the student progress piece. That begins on page 24 to 27 of the plan. This piece, we have to state how we are going to determine student engagement for the remote learners for 2 reasons. One is for attendance, which is the ADA funding, which is tied to our ADA funding, as well as how are we going to ensure that the students are meeting the expectations in terms of academic progress and meeting the state standards. for the attendance piece, there's a daily progress check in the learning management system, or the LMS. Currently, we're using Seesaw for pre-K, kinder, and first grade, and Google Classroom for 2nd through 12th grade. So if students log in to access their lessons, either in Seesaw or Google Classroom, it's recorded when they log in with their login information. It's already recorded, and so that's one way for teachers to check the progress in the LMS system. Also, another way is submission of daily assignments or an exit ticket, where students are submitting their assignments to teachers that are due on that day, or an exit ticket that allows teachers to see whether or not they've made progress on that day. That's another way that we can award attendance. And then the other third way that we can award attendance is, of course, if students are not logging into the LMS or not submitting assignments, for whatever reason, we can pick up the phone, call the parent, call the student, and have that conversation between the teacher and the student, and then the teacher decides whether or not that student has made progress for that day, and there's a log that they have to document those conversations in order for us to award attendance. Now, for the academic progress piece, we have to follow. It is mandatory that we follow the same grading guidelines for the in-person instruction as for the remote learners. So the grading guidelines that we have in place for our regular students, if they were to come to school every day and be in front of a teacher, are the same grading guidelines that have to be, employed or, with the students that are at home. These grading guidelines, of course, they require that assignments are submitted, they're graded, they're logged into Skyward, just like our regular grading guidelines. Of course, there's weekly feedback that is required that teachers provide to students in terms of how they're doing in the content and mastering the content. And that can be done, that can be done through the LMS, it could be done through a phone call, it could be done just, by an email. There's different ways, but we have to have weekly feedback to the students. And of course, in our regular grading guidelines, we have the progress reports in the 6 weeks. Grades. Ms. Orona, yes.
No, the only question I had was, when you're talking about feedback with the students, is that part of the parents are engaging as well, because they're learning from home? I mean, you get feedback from the student or from the parent?
No, the teachers are supposed to give feedback to the students in terms of how they're doing in their progress for the assignments.
To let them know?
Right.
Okay.
We
Now,
have to
are the
have
grades
feedback.
being updated, like how they need to be timely? Like the teachers are uploading their
Yes.
scores in Skyward?
So the grading guidelines are the same, and the expectations for grades are the same that we've had prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
So they're supposed to be updated weekly. And that's, that there's, the grading guidelines say that we have to have 2 grades per week. So teachers are
Expected to
the
have
expectations are that
updated.
we continue to use, the grading system just like we have in the past.
Okay.
So the teachers are gonna be getting this booklet?
So the preparation for the plan, yes, we have met with the principals to develop instructional schedules. We've shared the plan with, the administrators, with the teachers, with with groups of teachers that we've met with, the teacher leaders, so that, yes, and this plan has to be posted online. Yes.
Oh, it will be
Yes, and it will be
online.
shared with
Can we get a
everybody.
copy of that as well?
The plan was in your packet.
Is it?
The actual plan was the whole plan.
27 pages of it?
Yes.
It's
It's actually, the plan is actually 38 pages.
38 pages.
It's
ma'am.
numbered on the opposite side.
Okay, great. Okay,
It's all there.
I know we've been asked questions too, for the community as to, all kinds of questions, so I'm glad that we have.
Yes, ma'am. Everything is there for you, and this is the actual plan that we have, after you guys approve it, we will upload to TIA.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. And then the fourth key requirement of the plan is that we have a professional learning calendar for teachers, for instructional staff that are helping the students that are doing remote learning, so that we can offer support. Of course, we offer the technology support, the content support, there's a social emotional learning support, and the job embedded coaching opportunities for the teachers. In the plan, this particular piece begins on page, apologize, look at the page here. on page 29, if you look at the plan on page 29, you have the professional learning calendar. Everything that we have already done in terms of preparing to launch the school year. And then also there is professional learning opportunities that we will continue to offer in the fall and the spring semester. Yeah. Of course, the other piece of the implementation support is what supports do we have in place for families that are opting for their students to engage in remote learning. And of course, right before we launch the school year, Dr. Moreno has had several community Zoom meetings. We offer technology parent trainings on our end before the beginning of this school year. Of course, our communication with parents through parent letters that have been posted on the district website, social media platforms. We have flyers, and of course, there's been several phone calls home, as well as we also did instructional platform commitments for parents to decide whether they wanted their student to come in person or their student to stay, do the remote learning. We do have linked parent training schedule on the to the plan, where it offers parents different topics of support through this remote learning, this virtual learning time. There are technology support sessions listed, as well as technology or training on Skyward Portal and attendance. And then there's also topics on social, emotional, and wellness on that.
Are we getting participation in that? Like when you're talking about allowing the parents to get that training?
So when we did the trainings at the beginning of the school year, Ms. Orona, before we started the school, we did have quite a bit of parent participation. Of course, the smaller school districts had smaller amounts of number. Of course, parents. We have a lot of parents, and I can get you those numbers because our technology specialist, instructional specialist, Ms. Rachel Medrano, she conducted those parent trainings, and and you have a way to document who logged on and how many. So she has those numbers, but we had a good amount of parents, especially in the pre-K, kinder, and first grade. Of course, because CSOL was new, and of course they're the ones wanting to help the students. We had a good attendance in the second and third grade, because second and third is Google Classroom. We had a good attendance in fourth and fifth Google Classroom, 6th through 8th. We had less I guess numbers at the high school, but I guess you could infer that at the high school the students know how to log in better than the parents.
They won't
so
ask the parents.
Yeah, but we did have some high numbers attend. And of course, like I said, the bigger the campus, the more the parents.
More parents involved.
Right.
But the reason I was asking is because I can already see that some parents, if you notice that their kids' grades are not where they need to be, I mean, potentially it could be that the parents weren't available to support them, maybe because if they're working or for whatever other reason. But at that point, we still reach out to help those kids somehow, right? If they're virtually learning.
Right, so the beauty behind the asynchronous plan, Ms. Orona, is that if students are not able to log into the live instruction with teachers, or they don't have the ability to have someone there helping them during the day, that the attendance or their credit is still, they're able to get it, because with the asynchronous plan, they can potentially submit the work at any time during the day. So if you have a parent that works 8 to 5, comes home at 6 o'clock and sits with the child and does the homework or does the work and submits it before 12 midnight or 11:59 midnight, they still get the attendance and they still get the credit. And so the attendance then gets corrected the next day for the asynchronous plan. Okay. So we opted for the asynchronous plan because we felt it was beneficial not only for attendance but also for the support of our students and the needs of our community and our parents. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And let's see, now the training schedule for the parent training schedule for the fall, what we did link this to the plan. You don't have it in front of you, but we are promoting the trainings through the campus, through the parent liaisons, through our district website and social media platforms, and we are going to monitor the attendance on those as well. And again, I feel like a parent involvement department in their work alongside the 21st century family engagement specialists and our social workers have done a really good job of coming up with some really good topics for our parents during this time.
So is it gonna be available for them when parents aren't
Yes.
on hours that they're not at work?
Right, and so what we did is we tried to double the
sessions.
training so that we can have one during the day and one after hours.
Okay, that's great.
So we'll be, with your approval, we'll be submitting this to TEA and hopefully everything will go well and.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Recommendations, sir?
The trustees were asking you to consider approval to submit Robstown ISD 2020-2021 asynchronous plan to the Texas Education Agency.
There's a recommendation from staff that we approve to submit Robstown ISD 2020-2021 accuracy. Plan to the Texas Education Agency. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Lopez, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Rona. Any questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous? We go to C, sir.
Trustees were asked to discuss and consider approval of official attendance taking time. So basically, Richard, can you change that back? Have a standard of 10 a.m. when we take attendance. But remember, this year what we did is we have our elementaries that are staggered, that start earlier compared to our high school, before everybody started at the same time. So what we're wanting to do is make sure we can make that adjustment. So it's 10 o'clock is standard for elementary, and it's 10:22 for secondary. So that's why we're bringing this forward for your approval.
Your recommendation.
Can we do it later? The only reason I'm saying is because didn't know, Mr. Wayne said that, it'll still count as attendance if you're doing it at 6 o'clock?
No, well, we have to have our standard time. Now, if it's asynchronous and they have the flexibility,
They change
but
it the next day, is what she said.
So right now,
It's still credited.
Yeah, they'll credit the next day.
yes.
All right, just thought I'd.
So 10 a.m. for elementary and secondary be 10:22.
Can I ask why 10:22?
That's because of the transition times. So that begins, I believe it's third period.
Oh, okay, all right.
Mhm.
It's a unique time, 10:22.
I know, that's what I asked. I guess it takes that long to get it.
And trustees, just give me 1 second, because I want to make sure I don't say the wrong time. That's what I guess, 10:22 for secondary.
Your recommendation, sir.
Recommendations to consider approval of official attendance taking time for 10 a.m. for elementary and 10:22 for secondary.
The recommendation from staff that we have consider approval of official attendance taking time for 10 for elementary,
Yes,
then 10:22 for secondary.
yes, and again, that's a.m.
Do I have a motion?
I move.
Moved by Mr. Luna, any second? Second. Second by Mr. Lopez, any questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? At this time, I'd like to go to item 9, closed session, section under 551.071 and 551.074 of the government code, at exactly 7:59.
Also, I just want to say a comment before we go to executive session, and this is not with regards to, I wanted to say a comment with regards to the term, is that okay?
Oh, no,
I don't want to make a comment.
because we already closed that.
You have to close the open.
No, that's okay.
I'm sorry, thank you.
No.
All right, so we're now on closed session. We have item 8, Monday. Go ahead. We'll take about a 5-minute break here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
need a motion to
go to Oh, I'll move.
Okay.
There's a motion by Ms. Olona, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Lopez, any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. Okay, we need a motion. Second by Ms. Orona, any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? We go to item A, sir.
What do we do with the first?
Oh, that would be something, that's a board item.
Well, okay.
You have to,
Let me ask, if there's a recommendation regarding Rolando or Roland de Alejandro's grievance, do I have a motion to accept or not to accept?
I want to present a motion, Chairman. I want to make a motion that we deny the request.
That we reinstate Rolando de Alejandro and accept his grievance as presented to the board. Do I have a motion?
no, he already made the motion.
I already make a motion.
Okay, the motion by Mr. Gonzalez. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies for the lack of a second. We go to item B, sir.
Trustees, I'd like to discuss and consider approval of resignations, appointments, and terminations as discussed in executive session.
There's recommendation from staff that we approve the resignations and appointments that was presented in executive session. Michael, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by, Orona. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Roldan. Any questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous? We go to item number 11, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Orona. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Lopez. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Oh, yes.
Did he close